Hello racers and welcome back. So there haven't been any videos. The season kind of shuts down over summer, and I've been looking now to do a track day. So I booked into Brands Hatch GP circuit for tomorrow, and I'm just going to prepare the car, do a few checks, and I thought it'd be worth making a video on actually how I go about preparing the car. And I'm sure everybody has their own way of doing it, but it's always interesting to see how people make sure that the car's are right and ready to go on circuit. So let's get started. So the first thing for me is I always check the tyre pressures initially. So these tyres are cold, which is to see if I've had any kind of air leaks or slow punches since I last took it out. So I'll just get one of these digital gauges and give it a read. So that's reading 18.5. So I think I left them about 18.5 when I came back. So I'll go around, do all those and see if there's any slow leaks. So next up, I'm going to take all the wheels off. So before I crack the wheel nuts, just make sure the handbrake's on, and then I always put it in gear. Now I can go and start looking to take off all the wheel nuts, or crack them off at least, and then I'll get the car up on the blocks and on the lift here and check underneath the car. Now I'm just taking the bonnet off so I can try and line up the trolley jack with the jacking point. Get this up in here. The rears are already on axle stuff, and that's enough for me to get my tyres off the ground. So next off, just go around and take all the wheels off, get those out for a clean. So now we've got the wheels off, it's time to give them a quick wash, have a look, see what the condition of the wheels are like. Are there any cuts to the tread? Is the tread okay? Generally give it a clean up, and I like to keep things clean because it gives you a quick indication when something's wrong or leaking. So let's get on and wash them. So on this one I'm using Autoglym Clean Wheels. I'll give it a little squirt on and wash it around. It helps get the brake dust off. Also helps or makes it easier to remove the brake dust next time as well. So always use a good product, and yeah, it pays off in the end. So while the wheels are drying off, it's time to start looking under the engine bay. So I've taken the nose off and the bonnet. Next thing I look for is any kind of fluid marks, any leaks under the car. This looks pretty good, so that's promising. And then the next thing I'll do is just check the levels. So the levels look good, they look fine. Yep, that's right up to the max. And then have a quick look for any sort of fluid spots and leaks within the engine bay. I painted these kind of marks on here so I can see if anything moves and shifts. Recently replaced the throttle cable, so that's all good. Breather tank, yeah, that's going to need emptying, so I'll put that on the list. So these cars breathe really heavily at high revs, so this is the catch tank for the car. You just have to make sure that's empty and all these pipes are kept clean. Air filter was recently serviced, so that's sort of everything while the car is cold. I'll check the oil in a bit once it's run in, but yeah, that seems pretty good. So the next thing I'll look for, all the suspension bushes. Now we've got the wheels off, we can have a really good look at the brakes. Plenty of copper grease on the threads. Pads look okay. Let's have a look from here. Yeah, pads look fine. Okay, so it's just going through really and giving everything a check over, so I'll do that now. So the next thing is to come underneath the rear of the car and just give a look at all the CV joints and boots, and the diff seems good, there's no kind of oil leaks there, and the gear linkage and drive shaft all look good. No leaks from any of the brakes. The rear brakes have recently been sort of stripped down as of the electronics in the back, so I know most of that is in good order. So yeah, on to the next job. Then I'm just going to go and spanner check all of the structural bolts and make sure everything's on properly and as tight as it should be. I end up using the owner's manual for torque settings, but I just go through initially with this just to check if there's any kind of loose bolts. So I've just noticed there seems to be a gap between that front washer, and it's the same on the other side. So what I'm going to do is just check the torque of these, just to make sure that they're okay. And they seem fine, so that must just be a spacer, but it's always interesting to watch out for those kind of things that don't quite look right, and give them a double check. And then while I'm on the tightening, I just go through and check each of these Jubilee clips, certainly on the cooling system, because they take quite a bit of abuse while we're out on track. Just checking all of those. So after I've checked the cooling system, I just go through and check the brake reservoir. There's plenty of fluid in the brake reservoir. Doesn't seem to really be any leaks from there. And I'll just follow it around now and go to each of the brakes in turn and check to see if there's any kind of fluid dripping out anywhere. That seems dry. I'll go over to the rear. It's pretty dark, you probably can't see anything here, but the bleed nipple is here, that all looks dry. Like I said before, I had a look at these not too long ago and they were fine, so it's all good. Okay, so that concludes the sort of overall check of the car. Checked all fluids, checked the bolts. Now time really to rebuild it. So let's put it back together. So because I care about my car, I like a shiny car, I'm just going to do the tyre dressing. I'm actually going to do the inside of the tyre and the outside, since this is almost an open wheel car at the front. So that should look very nice when we put it back on. So I'm going to start by putting the wheels back on the car. I'm going to put them up finger tight while it's on the jacks, and make sure then that I torque them up when they're on the floor, else I might pull it off the axle stand. So check I've got a bit of copper grease on the axles, which I have, and then it's just a case of screwing these up, which I had an egg on, until they're all done. Then I'm going to make sure that I do them in diagonal pattern. Probably easier actually to do them like this. So now it's on the ground, we'll start it up, let the engine run for a couple of minutes while I torque the wheels up, and that will give me a chance to warm the oil up, let it sit, and then check the oil temperature. So it'll also give me a chance to check the fuel as well, and see if we need to go out and get some more fuel. Looks like yes. Just pop the nose on and secure it with a half turn on the screwdriver. Done. So another thing I like to check is the fire extinguisher in the boot. So that's all within the green. So yeah, ready to go. I just have to remember to pull out this pin before we get on track tomorrow, or else I won't be able to actually activate it. So give it some chance to cool down. Swipe off the dipstick. Give it a check over. It's absolutely bingo bango on the top mark. I always take spare oil and spare coolant as well. It's something that you always end up needing. So yeah, that's all the oily bits and the fluidy bits done. So I've just looked at my spare jerry cans for fuel, and one of them's full, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop that into the car. But always wear these. I had it before where it splashed back off one of these flexible hoses, pinged back, and I've got petrol in my face. So always wear these. So that's it, we've checked all the fluids, we've got the tyre pressures ready to go tomorrow, the tyres are looking good, the brakes are looking good, we're pretty much all set apart from kit, so all that's really left now for me to do is some polishing, and I'll see you tomorrow at track day. Bye.